But hey, thank you. So nice to be here today. My name is Haz Hubble, and I'm the founder of a company called Pally. And this talk is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a bit of a show and tell, if you like, if we can go back to high school and one of those days. So we can talk a little bit about what is it that we've built, and then one part of that is an AI concierge using LLMs. And so we're just going to talk a little bit about how did we do that, what issues did we face, and perhaps there's something there that might be interesting for some of you guys. So first of all, what is Pally? Well, actually, I'd like to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you, there's two options, and you have to put your hand up if you're better for one option or the other. So the two options are you better at making friends, or are you better at keeping friends and like cultivating those relationships for the long term? So first of all, put your hand up if you're better at making new friends. You do have to pick one of them. And then put your hand up if you think you're better at like keeping friendships afterwards. Fair. Okay. You know, it's often the opposite response, so that really ruins my pitch. Well, let's just pretend you had the opposite response. Basically, we believe that social media of today doesn't really help you stay connected to people. So we've tried to build a social product that does help you stay connected to people. And as much as all of you in here don't seem to have a problem with that, some people do, okay? So what is that made up of? We call it a social operating system. It's made up of 4 different sections. You can think of it like a WhatsApp, really. That's the end goal here, is to replace WhatsApp. So it's a messaging app at its core. We have an AI concierge that helps you with making plans and finding things to do. We have a shared social calendar, so it can link to your calendar when you're texting your friend and you're saying, let's go and do this thing. The concierge gives you a recommendation, and within one button you can then add that to your calendar. So that's that integration, and then you also have an intelligent address book, which is a much better address book, so it links out to all of your social media accounts, and then will alert you if something happens in one of your friends' life, so you can reach out at the right time and cultivate that relationship and help you stay connected. So this comes together to create much more of a social ecosystem to help you be a better friend and stay connected to one another. The AI concierge is one part of that. So this is the first use that we have in there of our AI that we've built. And I'm actually going to demo it instead of talking about it to begin with. And then we can talk a little bit about how does that work. Yeah, try and do. It's up, it's just not on the other screen. So if you see on your screen. How do we move on to the other desktop? Move it desktop.
Full screen should show up.
I'll make it full screen here. Okay. Oh.
Try turning it off and on again.
Beautiful. Okay. Awesome. All right, you can now see all of my stuff, so let's go on to do not disturb. Right, so this Pally is bottom right-hand corner, that logo down there. So we're going to press that. This is Pally. I'm just going to close it so we can see the load. So this is the app that we've built. Right now, what is live is the messaging app and the AI concierge. What's coming actually very soon now is the intelligent address book and the shared social calendar integration. So you have, as I said, similar to a WhatsApp kind of experience, you have a messaging app, you have a pals list and an assistant. The assistant is what's new. So you can access the assistant in 2 places. One is over here on its own tab. So we can come into here and we can ask the assistant something. But the more interesting implementation is actually when you're in a conversation with your friend. So here you can see I'm talking to my friend Ollie. Let's move the, oh no. Okay, cool. Hopefully you can see that. So I'm in a conversation with my friend Ollie. We're texting back and forth about going to see some jazz music this weekend. I'll press the assistant tab, and then immediately you can see the assistant is saying, oh, do you want to search for jazz music this weekend? So you press search, and then instantly it gives you these recommendations that you can click on, he says, and then it gives you more information. You can go on to book that, save it, share it, etc., etc. In the future, we're also building the AI agent that will allow you to make those bookings for you. So let's say I want to go to a Thai restaurant, and it's going to give you a Thai restaurant, and then you can actually say, great, book us a table for 2 at 7 p.m, and it goes ahead and books that table. Does anyone want to request for something? We can see, this is where the demo gods are never in my favor, but we can try.
Heavy metal concert.
Heavy metal concert, okay.
Cool.
Let's just go for that. Wait, I might go off the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is not. Okay, we have one, Coalition Festival in New Cross. Saturday, 2nd of September. There you go.
It's near you as well. See that?
And then you click into it, get more information about what's happening. In the future, as I said, all of that will happen right within the app. But yeah, this is sort of the first version. It's very much still a beta. We're in private beta right now. So that is sort of the user experience. I think now let's talk a little bit about like what is actually going on in the back end and how does this all work. So there's really 3 key parts of the tech implementation. So the first is, of course, the data. Where are we actually putting that data from? We're not just going to OpenAI and saying, we want heavy metal concerts, give us an answer. They would just give us a pretty generic text response back with sort of not any links or information or anything else. So we actually have our own data set that we curate from our partners like Ticketmaster and Eventbrite and So Far Sounds and other places. So we have our own data set that contains everything in there that we might want to recommend for someone. We then have a recommendation engine. This uses lots of other data points from within the product and how you interact with that product, who you're connected with in the product, your social circle, who is more prioritizing that social circle. There's a whole host of stuff that goes into this recommendation engine to understand what does it think you personally are going to prefer. So if you're asking for a Thai restaurant, maybe there's 50, 100 like Thai restaurants that it could recommend you. Which one is the best one for you? And that will consider like, what is your socioeconomic status? How much you'd like to spend when you go out? Do you prefer like one type of Thai restaurant over another type of Thai restaurant? And so it can learn that over time and give you the right recommendation. So what's happening, all of that data that's coming in from our partners, we do vector embeddings of that into a vector store. And then on the other side, when we have a query like this one, that query comes in, we also embed that query and do semantic search over our database, and then layer on top our recommendation engine to then prioritize, okay, of these options, which ones should we recommend for this user at that moment in time? The cool thing with that is then if you're in a group like me and Ollie here, it can consider both of our preferences, and it's then layering on not just my preferences, but also Ollie's preferences. If you're in a group of 5, 6, 7 people, it can do the same thing. So when you come to like finding things to do and making plans, hopefully it can be a really, really efficient way to do that. So that is how it works. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I won't be able to go back to this now. Thank you. This is now. Sure. So yeah, this is Pally. And find the mouse. Okay. Cool. And yeah, you can definitely download it here and let me know what you think. And as we add those other features, would love to get your feedback. Thank you so much.
Question.
Yeah.
So for the personalisation and the vector embeddings, and vector stores, what are you using for that? And is there a why part of what you're using as well?
Yeah, so well, there's 2 parts. So for the vector store itself, we originally were using Pinecone, which is a pretty popular vector store, but actually we decided to move away from it and use an open source alternative. I can't remember which one we're using now actually, but I can find out and let you know basically. But Pinecone really isn't very good. Don't recommend. So this is about some of the issues actually we faced during that journey. So it might be helpful. So yeah, the main issues we faced were like, so first of all, hard filters and soft filters. The issue with dealing with people's like unlimited queries when they can ask for anything and everything is then how do you actually respond and interpret that query? So one of the important things is if you're saying, I want to go and do something this weekend, it actually has to be this weekend. If you're saying you want to see heavy metal, it actually has to be heavy metal. You can't let the LLM go too wild with what it's actually recommending for you, and you have to work out what is what we call hard filters and what is the more semantic soft filters. So the first thing we do when we get that query is we do some pre-processing to work out what do we consider a hard filter, being like location. You might say it needs to be in Shoreditch or in Soho. You then don't want anything outside of that area. Or maybe you say near Shoreditch. Well, what does that mean? Then you've got to work out what is the coordinates of Shoreditch, how long is near, and so there's a lot of like pre-processing required to actually filter first of all and work out what is part of that query and what isn't part of that query. The other thing was speed. So GPT 3.5 versus GPT 4, the different pros and cons of each of those, also other LLMs that are out there. So we experimented with different things. Actually, quality-wise, GPT from OpenAI was definitely the best, but then there was the decision between 3 and 4. The issue is GPT-3 was not as good at reasoning on those hard filters and soft filters, and so it would error significantly more. Also, it wouldn't be very good at outputting as JSON, which causes loads of issues. So to begin with, we had to use GPT-4, but that's slower, and so you're sort of trading off quality for speed. Thankfully, when OpenAI came out with functions, now you can use GPT 3.5, which is much faster and really restricted to only outputting in the correct JSON format. So now for us, GPT 3.5 actually works better than GPT 4 because it's got the speed and the quality. So that was another process that we've been through over the last couple of months. Yeah, I think these are the main issues that we faced in building this. Yeah.
Hi. Two questions. Who's your target demographic? And for you, what's like the measure of success? Is it just people saying that they've been able to keep relationships, or is it going to be number of users? It'd be really interesting to hear.
Yeah, so our target customer to begin with is actually the early stage tech community. So founders and investors, these people are meeting new people all of the time. And so we can help them like actually remember who they've met and help them cultivate those relationships because they see the value in them. So what you've just seen today actually it's sort of kind of generally applicable to everybody. But the new features that are coming with the event planning and the intelligent address book, they're much more focused towards that community. We start with them, we get them sort of onboarded over the next year, and then those are also the people with the influence to bring their non-tech friends away from WhatsApp or away from iMessage into Pally as their default messaging app. So that's how we sort of plan to grow. What was your second question, sorry?
Just around the measure of success, because initially I thought it was more about maintaining, I don't know, like friendships and sort of that, rather than like business sort of professional relationships.
Yeah, so it's like what relationships are easier to start with, and so we see that there's a definite bonus of starting with those people that care about the relationships because of a professional reason, and then eventually moving into more of the personal side of things. But generally, yes, our measure is like, can we help you maintain those relationships for a longer period of time, help you have more meaningful relationships? That's where we want to get to eventually. But to get there, there's like these few stages we go through.
Yeah, you mentioned about using things like social economic status to determine people's preferences. Have you thought about kind of the impact of like obviously bias in AI, and there's been numerous stories about like racism and stuff that you put like skewed data in and then you get bad results out, and therefore the potential for that to kind of exacerbate kind of pre-existing kind of problems in society, if that makes sense. That's probably a horrible question. But
no, it's so important to consider. I think in our case, we're lucky that we're not doing something that's inherently, we're not giving you a feed of like misinformation that is much easier to direct you down one path or another. We're just deciding where do you want to go to eat or what music do you want to go and do. That's actually much less affected by your socioeconomic status, let's say, other than maybe the type of restaurant, whether you spend more or less. So I don't think it has quite as big of an impact, and so it doesn't matter quite as much. What we focus on much more is like, what do your closest friends enjoy? And then like we sort of predict that you're going to like similar stuff to your closest friends. by nature, that often means that you're in a similar socioeconomic status, but actually it's not something we directly look for / change recommendations based on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope I won't ask the same question, but do you have any future for keeping friendship? Like, you didn't see your friend, you didn't meet this friend for a month, or call your mother.
Yeah. This is like the whole reason I'm buying. I've like been building this is because I need to call my mum more. So yeah, exactly. It's a whole host of different insights, and you get 3 insights per day. This is the intelligent address book. So those 3 insights you get per day for your network might be, oh, you met this person 3 days ago at the NSLondon event. Maybe you should reach out to them. Or it could be, you haven't phoned your mum in a while. Or it could be, Jack, your friend, just got a new job at Twitter. Maybe you should say congratulations to him. So like these sort of insights are the kinds of things that will then feed you 3 per day so that you can keep on top of building your network and just cultivating those relationships.
Yeah, you think it's a joke, but I actually have a reminder to call my mother if I forget.
Oh, yeah, same.
Question about the business model. How are you going to make money? What's going to happen when you run out of money?
Our business model, our main business model is actually from the AI assistant. So when you go on to make those bookings, we get paid by those partners. So from Ticketmaster, Eventbrite, those restaurants, etc., OpenTable. So it's really good for the users. They don't pay a penny. These companies are already actually used to paying. So the restaurants pay OpenTable $1.50 per seat. It doesn't cost you anything, but whenever you book through OpenTable are getting paid for that. So OpenTable will be then basically paying us as their marketing, let's say, to be using their API in the first place. So that's our core business model. Over time, some of those insights I mentioned on the intelligent address book will be gated. So you'll get like basic insights like people's birthdays, whether you should call your mum for free. But then if you want something more intelligent that's like looking at their LinkedIn, Twitter, and alerting you if something's happening in the moment, then that might be $5 to $9 per month for your entire network. Yeah.
LLMs is an interesting topic, as is privacy, and you are sitting literally smack dab in the middle of that. How do you handle the sheer amount of what is actually very private information and making recommendations on that and training learning models on that? How generic versus how targeted does those, you talk about the hard and soft filters, where does that go, I suppose, is the question, and what safeguards have you got between belief?
Yeah, so privacy is the utmost importance, and we want this to be considered over time the most private messaging app as well as the most intelligent. So all personal data stays directly on device. Actually, how we do the recommendations is when you ask that question, only that question and some of the conversation context goes up to our servers, but actually goes through an anonymization layer that will also remove any mention of anyone's names. So yes, it can see someone somewhere sent these messages, gives you the response, sends it back, and then it deletes any of that data from our servers. So it's like giving you the answer when you need it, but it's not storing anything for the long term. Where our training the model and our personalization comes in is much more about your social graph and who you're connected with. So it has nothing to do with your actual conversations themselves. They can stay completely private and encrypted end to end.
That kind of partially answers the question. The issue is, as an example, it has access to my LinkedIn. Someone's got hired by Twitter. You've also then got 2 pieces of personal information. You've got the person you've got connection with, you've got your account, you've got the fact that and then if you're training learning models, is that a local thing that it's training them that they're an important person in your life, or is that like this person has lots of connections and therefore will surface more in other people's?
So there's 2 parts of it. So in terms of understanding like the social graph, that's based off of how often you're speaking to someone, and then that stays in our servers. So that's like data that we have there from that activity. In terms of the stuff from LinkedIn and Twitter, this is just public information. So yes, we are holding that information, taking that information and using that to present it to another user, but it's coming from a public source that we have access to, and you've given other people, you're basically giving us access to and other people access to. So if they wanted to delete that, they can delete it at any time. The user's in control of what's being presented about them to their network. And then if they decide that actually I don't want my network to know about this, then they can just delete that insight or turn it off altogether. So it's completely up to the user. Cool, thanks so much.
Great, thank you very much for that, Haz. So we'll take a 10-minute break now, and then we'll come back for the final talk.